Hey guys, Coach Dan here. Back workout today. Cracker one yesterday. Ooh, quads jacked up. Hack squats. Greatest of all time for my quads, I reckon. They are already sore 1 day later. I'm not sure how they're going to be recovered in time for the end of the week, but we don't have to worry about that just yet. We go to a back workout today. So this back workout is, or pull workout, whatever you'd like to call it, is the same as it's been for weeks now. I've been progressing nicely and I have no real reason to change. Yeah, a little tweak here and there to focus on some things. But other than that, we just keep riding this one. So again, I think some things can be said for changing things when they're not working, but changing things too often doesn't make a lot of sense either. So in that regard, for this particular workout, we just keep riding, right? We keep making progress until we need to change. And when we need to change, then we sub stuff out and we sub stuff in, or we do more volume, or we do less volume, or we take some recovery, or we figure out why it is that we're not getting better. And then we make that change. But if you're making progression, why change? If it ain't broke, don't fix it, as they say. And it's fun, and all the exercises still feel really good, and I'm putting in good intensity on this one. There's no reason to change at all. This back workout and my other back workout, to be honest, they seem to be going well. Some of the other muscle groups are a little bit more challenging, or there's some things to consider as far as making changes go. But for now, we keep riding the wave. So pull workout, we start with lat dominant stuff. I get this back jacked up so I can walk around feeling all big and stuff. And yeah, let's get straight into it. We're going machine pullover first. Try and isolate those lats before we go into our rows. Here we go. All right, first up, machine pullover. So this is a bit of an old school machine pullover. I don't know what brand it is, but it is effective and feels good for me. So in place of this, you could do something like a lat prayer with a bar or ropes up at the cable machine, setting it like such, dragging down in. The idea here is to kind of get the lats a little bit isolated, or what we call pre-fatigue, before I go to my rows, so I can feel them really well on my rows and can target them really well and just smash them all over. Now, when you think about the lats, one of their main jobs is shoulder extension. So if you ignore my lower arm, it's kind of bringing my arm down like this, as well as bringing it in and a few other things. So if you think about the machine pullover or our lat prayers, it's kind of exclusively that movement. There will be some other muscles that contribute to this. Number one would be the rear delt, and number two would be the long head of the tricep. And they contribute as the long head of the tricep goes and attaches into the scapula and then attaches to your lower arm, so it can kind of pull your arm into that position. Rear delt, deltoid tuberosity, and then also into the scapula as well. So it controls some of those movements. So there's no real, absolute pure isolation, but it's pretty close and it feels effective. So we start off here, pre-fatigue the lats, and we go and do our other lat movements in our rows and stuff like that use some bicep and some other stuff. We can feel the lats really well. So for the pullover, we can go over like such. Now, one of the things that I changed with this is I've gone from doing an overhand position, which kind of pushes my elbows out, to reverse. So palms are now facing back towards me. We get that big stretch at the back as far as your mobility allows. And then you're thinking about driving your arm down to isolate the lats as much as possible. All right, not much to it other than that. We've got the seatbelt for stability, big stretch at the back, open up everything as far as possible, drive the arm down so the lat can isolate as much as possible. Still got my big jumper on. Got to get warmed up before I unlayer. All right, let's get it. That is the pullover done. So again, the idea from doing that is we kind of get some pre-fatigue in the lats, so you feel the lats a little bit, and then we come and do our rowing movements, which incorporate the other muscles like your bicep and stuff like that. But even while I do this, because I've already put a little bit of work into the lats, they're already a little bit fiery, a little bit toasty, and so I can feel and engage them here a little bit better. Now that's not a must, definitely not. I suppose there's potential that doing that will make this lighter or weaker because I'm fatigued. But again, as long as I get on here and I take this to fatigue, it should be equal for growth. So I'm going single arm on this row. So this is a compound row, they call this one. You could do both arms at the same time. I find that the single arm means I can line it up a little bit better. I get my foot of the side that's working. I plonk it on the, the foot plate there. I only do one for me, that feels pretty good. I shift over to the side, and then I can line it up such that I really feel the lat. So if we think about the lat is a muscle that is kind of attaching at the front of the arm, wrapping down under the rib cage, heading in towards your spine and then down towards your pelvis kind of area. This component, this is trying to chain the part of it that's kind of coming in towards the spine. So the horizontal rows, arm close to the body, potentially biased towards the horizontal fibers, or more horizontal fibers, should I say. And then when we go into our pull downs, they're more the fibers that are heading in towards the pelvis, or the iliac fibers, they're known sometimes. So arm close for lat. If we want to make it about our upper back, we could take our arms away from the body, squeeze the shoulder blades together. But again, we're making this lat dominant, or as lat dominant as possible. Arm close, jam it right into your side. Big stretch, let everything open up, jam it right in. All right, good start to the workout. Let's keep it going. We've gone pullover machine, we've gone a single arm horizontal row, and now we're going to go a neutral grip lat pull down. So again, if we're thinking about the components of the lats, we're thinking potentially there might be some merit to kind of train some of the fibers that come in under your arm and then into your back and kind of go this way, and then some start to angle down. And that's why, again, the job, or one of the main jobs of your lat, is this shoulder movement from these kind of positions here. So we call that shoulder extension. Now, potentially you could tick all the boxes just focusing on doing some form of horizontal row and some form of vertical pull. But I'm inclined these days to do a combination of different positions where we're here, and then if we're thinking about upper back, we're getting the arms away from the body and doing different pulls like that, just to make sure we're ticking all the boxes. And the downsides are only that you use more exercise selections to get there, and sometimes that's not always, it takes a bit more time, it maybe takes away from an exercise that could have gone in the next program, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, so neutral grip, so arms are about shoulder width apart with this handle. We tuck nicely under the pad here. Big stretch up, same, stretch all the way up, let the shoulders pull up. and then we're pulling down. Stretch, pull. So for this one, thinking about driving the arm down, not necessarily back now, so we can focus on the lower part of the lats potentially by going down. I like this medium kind of grip. I like narrow grips. I like reverse grip can even be good here. Any grip where the arm's coming close to the body allows the lat really well to pull the arm down and into that kind of area. All right, 2 sets here.
Stop being a fucking pussy. I can see you want to give up. I'll tickle your armpits. Don't be a fucking bitch. Again. Stop pausing. Go again. Again, now. Again, pussy. What the fuck? Go again. Go. Again.
How does anyone love you? All right, next up we have the plate loaded row. So we've moved from a few lat exercises where the arm goes close to the body and it gets driven sort of horizontally sometimes, but down as the lat fibers kind of orientate down. This particular row is going to be for our upper back. Now these days, you know, the biomechanic community might even split the upper back or the trap specifically into four components, like the ones that do the shrug, a little bit lower kind of shrug, sort of the squeezing of the shoulder blades back and the depression of the shoulder blades, so 4 different functions potentially. I mean, that makes sense to me, but I don't go like, oh, I have to do them one for each one of those, but you know, different angles. So this one's going up, the next one comes horizontally, that might have some merit. And you know, generally overall, make sure you train the different functions across time. It doesn't have to be all in the same program, but across time it might be good to do, you know, rows where they go up, rows where they come horizontally, rows where the shoulder blades or scapula is kind of depressed. So this one goes up, this feels good, resistance is good, I'm getting stronger at it, happy days. So with this particular one, it starts off low. I'll kind of reach over, grab the handles, strap my straps in so grip's not an issue, then sit back with them. And again, this one's about driving the shoulder blades, sort of backing up over the top of the chest pad. I'll let it all round out so I get that stretch as well. And then, yeah, so round out over there, go up. And again, it's like that inward rotation of your whole sort of shoulder. Now, a good thing about this one going up is that being that the lats are fibers that kind of come into your back and head horizontally and down, when we start to go up, that kind of doesn't let them work very well. My arm has to get pulled back to do this movement, but a lot of this is going to be really trappy, which is good for us. Good for this exercise, not good for us in general, good for what I am using this exercise for, so happy days. Okay, let's get into set 1. Come on. Okay, next up, so we continue with the upper back theme, and if we just had that plate loaded low row there, come from low to high, this one's now coming horizontal, but again, being that it's upper back that we're trying to target now, the arms come away from the body. And remember, lats is a close row we did at the beginning. Now we're kind of thinking upper back, so we're going away from the body. Now you see me fiddling around with this thing. This is because I do like this machine, but there's a limit to the range that it provides. So a potential limit to the stretch I'll get, and then potentially doing it this way makes it a little less effective. This is a unique piece of equipment I haven't really seen anywhere else. I don't know what they call it. Maybe a low friction, yeah, Nautilus low friction row. So there's also multiple handles here. So I've kind of figured that I've got the seat height somewhat down and the handle position somewhat set. So I'll take a neutral grip, sit down with it. Again, let the shoulder blades roll forward, pull them back. Arms are away from the body, meaning the whole shoulder to continue the movement will have to move, and hopefully making it and biasing it towards the upper back as much as possible. 2 sets here, and that essentially caps off the upper back work. I've got another exercise that does incorporate rear delts and upper back, which I'll show when we get here, but 2 sets here. It might be tough because that already felt heavy. It's one of the warm-up sets. Whew. Let's get it. Capping off the back, and this is like back rear delt. So this is called a cable wire raise. So I've done this back in the day that we were doing things like Olympic lifting, where there's a lot of like heavier loads overhead, and this was done then in regards to just shoulder health in general. But what I'm using this for from a bodybuilding perspective, we're going to do a wire raise, which is that kind of shape there. So if you take that arm through that path, you get this kind of downward rotation of the scapula to keep the movement going. And that's essentially what I want, downward rotation. So you think about the scapulas and the traps that are like a diamond at the top. Now we've done like a higher row or a low to high row. We've done a horizontal one. Now I want to kind of get them to rotate down to work the lower part of the traps. So you know, this is for me is lower trap and rear delt will come into it, and it's going to be that motion there. So when I first started doing this, I started doing it with a handle with this kind of grip. Now I'm just going to do the hold on to the thing at the end of the cable, and we're going to go an underhand grip. So this looks like this. I'll grab one cable this side, one cable this side, and we're going into Y shape, hence the name cable Y raise. So there's a bit of a limit there. I've done this one seated, and I might have to go back to doing it seated because the range is limited whilst doing it standing. But essentially the idea is, we go in that Y shape, and even if you just take your arms there and you kind of continue back as far as you can, you'll feel the scapula. Same this way. You'll feel the scapulas kind of rotate like this or this. And that's what we're trying to do here, train the lower traps, which are contributors to downward rotation of the scapula. So I might have to take a couple of moments here to get my setup. I've been doing it seated. We just did it standing there, but I might have to get the seat over again because range of motion due to this cable machine was limited there. So we'll set that up and then we'll be on. All right, so for that cable wire raise, the reason I feel it might have some value is I just can't feel those muscles work really well, especially when I get some weight in my hand. With no weight, I feel like I can contract them well, but I feel like there's a gap when doing other training. I don't feel that action or those muscles work too hard, so potentially that can be the way to kind of train them. Because I'm not feeling them in any of the other movements that I do, so that might be a good one. The rear delts get smashed there as well. I feel rear delts pretty significantly towards the end, but we could call it a combination between lower trap and rear delt exercise, and I'll be happy with that. And again, for rear delts, I'm not doing anything else, so for it to be in there is good, but yeah, I want to be able to really feel those lower traps. Okay, next we've got my lying dumbbell curl variation. So you'll see this in a second. It looks a bit unusual, but I have my rationale for doing it. So your standard dumbbell curl, like standing, the issue, or one of the issues is, probably two main issues you'd say, is that it's not hard to kind of get halfway through the movement, such as start going up against gravity, as well as because the bicep is a biarticular muscle, meaning it passes two joints, the elbow and the shoulder. We don't fully stretch it out if our arm's just down here by our side. So potentially having it behind the level of the body might make this exercise more effective for a larger stretch. And lying down, like you'll see in a minute here, means I'm going up against gravity earlier. Now, a downside to this one is it takes a bit of fucking around to get into position. I've got to crawl down like this. But once I'm there, we just go to town. Full extension, curl. Full extension, curl. So, for the reason that it is a bit awkward to get into position, another thing that I do with that one is I don't go too heavy. So rep range 10 to 15-ish, not, if it's really heavy dumbbell, then you've got to wrestle them into position, that might waste some juice. So moderate rate, get it into position. Once you're in position, go to town. In that rep range, maybe a bit higher if you really want to, up to 20 or something like that, but nice and close to failure. And yeah, you're lying down, so we are going up against gravity sooner in this motion, and the arm is stretched behind the level of the body as well. So this is a cracker, bit of an awkward setup, a bit unusual, but for me, it feels really effective. So I've been doing it for a while. Last week was tough. So I think I improved the week before's performance by 1 rep, but I remember it being a real grind. So it might be tough here as well. All right, let's go. Okay, that's a wrap on the workout, guys. A good one. Pull workout. So back comes into that. Biceps, rear delts, maybe you categorize them as back, but that's all within that workout. So biceps come along with back because if we do pulling movements, we get a little bit of elbow flexion, and your bicep is one of the main elbow flexors. So with that in mind, it makes sense to do the pulling movements with bicep isolation if you're trying to do work for that. With that in mind, sometimes you don't even have to do extra bicep work if you're doing lots of the pulling movements. I'm just doing it extra because it's a focus area for me at the moment, arms and shoulders. So want to get those extras in for that. Now, just to kind of recap what I was discussing in the intros, like if you're making progression on stuff, there is a tendency to kind of want to do different things all the time because you feel like you're missing out on something. But sometimes if you at the beginning have set a plan and it's felt really effective at the beginning, you just stick to those things. Try and make them stronger, try and get better, keep your technique, keep your execution, and just get better with them, at least for a decent chunk of time. Now, depending on the exercise, it could be 6 weeks, 12 weeks, but even longer sometimes a year. Like some exercises, if they are the most effective one and you're just substituting it out because you think, I need to change all the time, it's like, well, it's not absolutely necessary. So, you stick to the things that work well and are effective, and you just keep building them over the course of time. Now, there would be a time to change something, not necessarily exercise selection, if like you started to get some joint pain or some pain that is not what it's supposed to be. That would be a reason to change. And then, you put that exercise on the bench, or, you mark it down somewhere to know that that's a good exercise for you. You just got to wait for it to not feel shitty on those joints. Note your personal records on those. And then, 2, 3, 4, 5 months into the future or next year or whatever it might be, you can bring them back in. Number 2, if you're lacking progress on things, that would make sense to kind of go, all right, I need to change something. But it doesn't necessarily mean straight away new exercise selection. It could be, maybe I'm doing too much volume, maybe I'm doing too little volume, maybe I'm under recovering, maybe there's something going on, maybe my execution has changed, whatever it might be, technique has changed. And then in that kind of situation, then you'd probably go, it might be time to change. Another reason to change is if it just doesn't feel as effective as it once did, and you have a exercise weighting that you haven't done in this program because you had the one you're currently doing, and you've got it here on the bench and it's effective and it's really good, and this one has stopped feeling as effective, boom, switch that out, switch that in, smash that one out for a period of time until, one of those 3 things kind of, happens, stall in progress, joint pain, or just a lack of it feeling effective. And that happens again, then you can sub them back in, sub them out, and eventually over the course of time you'll get a database full of exercises per muscle group or per body part or per movement or whatever it might be that you really like and are always effective. And then you can leave them on the bench. You got this group over here on the bench, and then this one here, it's not feeling so good anymore, or benchy in, you're on the bench, have a breather, and then you can kind of swap them in and out over the course of time. And eventually you just have this database of the exercise are best, and you don't have to go to ones that are subpar compared to those other ones. All right, that's enough of a spiel from me. Tomorrow, push day. So we'll get that in. We've, again, some of the pushing exercises are stalling a little bit, so I might have to apply and eat my words here and apply something new to some of these if they stop. But I did take the back end of last week off, so potentially that could, give me the recovery I need, and potentially recovery was an issue, and then I'll know, basically. All right, that'll do. As always, guys, if you are liking this kind of stuff, please hit the subscribe up here. Very easy peasy. Click the button, subscribe. Doesn't cost you a thing. And if you want to watch more, there's this playlist of all my other exercise and workouts and how I'm training other muscle groups. And as always, it's about progress over perfection. Coach Dan, signing off.